Thank you, Nina, and it's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank Heritage Foundation for putting this event together, celebrating my new book, The Truth About Obamacare. With a historic vote, the 2,500-page Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act was passed into law on March 23rd. That is 6 months ago, so we're 6 months into it, and there's still a lot to be said and a lot for the American people to learn about the truth about Obamacare. What I like to say is understanding health care is similar to unraveling an onion. There are many layers and many tearful moments. I think that all of us would agree that the key goal for America is affordable, accessible, quality health care. The question is, how do we achieve that goal? And there are two competing visions for healthcare reform, one which focuses on increasing the involvement of government in our healthcare system, and the other which involves empowering patients and doctors. That is the position that I support, but unfortunately, increasing the role of government through increased taxes, subsidies, mandates, and controls on insurance companies, that is what we have now under Obamacare. That is what the President supports, and it is what the late Senator Ted Kennedy called Medicare for All. I think that is the path which we are following in this country under Obamacare. Very few people in America realize that we don't have a free market in healthcare. 50% of the American healthcare system today is in the hands of government, whether it's through Medicare, Medicaid, S-CHIP, and the VA system. Those are all programs that Nina is very familiar with and works on a lot, educating us on what they mean for Americans. The U.S. spent last year 17.3% of gross domestic product on health care, about $2.5 trillion, or 1/6 of our economy. And the President, Pelosi, and Reid, and many say we are spending too much. Now, I don't know whether we're spending too much or we're spending too little. We all in America demand the very best in health care. Canada, which is often compared and told as being, the great country that we should copy their health care system, they spend 10.4% of GDP on health care. But what people don't realize is that is what the government can afford, because in Canada, the government is the only provider of health care. But when government says they can only spend 10.4% and the demand is much greater, you get ration care, long waiting lists for care, and lack of access to the latest technology and treatments. In Canada today, the average wait from seeing a primary care doctor to getting treatment by a specialist is 16.1 weeks. That's 4 months. Is that what the American people want? Well, I believe that's what's going to happen under Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act was passed, as I mentioned, on March 23rd, without a single Republican vote. It was noteworthy that the President, Speaker Pelosi, and Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid did not give one iota of care about what the American people wanted in terms of health care reform. The Rasmussen poll, right up until the vote, said 55% of Americans were opposed to the bill, and in the latest Rasmussen poll, 58% of Americans want to see this legislation repealed. That is an astonishing statistic and very, very important. The Kaiser tracking poll has showed that between July and August, support for the legislation fell from 50 down to 43%. And the last point is that the Investor's Business Daily has shown that 45% of doctors are seriously considering getting out of the practice of medicine because of the practice of Obamacare. And what does that mean for young students who would go into medicine? Normally the best and the brightest go in, but now I think we're going to see a tremendous change in who goes into medicine. Because like in Canada, doctors become union members, they are civil servants, and their associations bargain with the provincial government on how much they're going to be paid. But the one thing is clear, the American people do not want the federal government in charge of their health care. Just look at the gubernatorial election in Virginia, the one in New Jersey, the Tea Party movement, and of course the Scott Brown victory on January 19th. where he won over Martha Coakley, the Democratic candidate, which was really a tremendous victory for the Republicans, and it was all over Obamacare. Following passage of the Affordable Care Act, the Republican Party has been talking repeal and replace. I believe they must keep to this message. If in 2013 the Republicans have taken the presidency and control of Congress, this act can be repealed, just like Medicare Catastrophic was in 1989. Everyone here is too young to remember, but Dan Rostenkowski was run out of town over Medicare Catastrophic. But this move to repeal and replace is going to take a tremendous amount of resolve in order to get it done. There is now a 10th Amendment challenge to Obamacare, and today, the federal judge in Florida is hearing the case from 20 state attorneys general and the National Federation of Independent Business on the legality of Obamacare. There was a tremendous victory in Missouri a couple of weeks ago when 71% of voters in Missouri said that they were against the individual mandate, and that won by 71%. And then, of course, in Virginia, right next door here in D.C., Judge Hudson said that the case against Obamacare can continue against the Department of Justice. So I think we've got some very interesting challenges ahead, and I think it's very, very exciting that, people are standing up against Obamacare. This legislation by the Congressional Budget Office was said to cost $940 billion over 10 years. I just don't think that is going to be possible. The President wanted a bill that cost $900 billion or less, but many economists, myself included, have shown that this, between 2014, when most of the new tax increases are in effect, will cost, between 2014 and 2024, about $2.5 trillion over 10 years. This means increased taxes, increased deficits for all of us here in America. There are 159 new boards and commissions under this legislation, and of course there will be 16,000 new IRS agents who will be hired in order to monitor whether or not we all have health care and show it on our tax return. Well, the President's goal, pillar number one, according to me, the President's goal was universal coverage at lower costs. Well, under Obamacare, 34 million Americans are going to be added to the list of the insured. 18 million of them are going to be added to Medicaid rolls, bringing the total up from the 50 million today to about 84 million Americans. I can tell you the only thing that I know for sure is that costs are going to increase. They are not going to decrease. We will not have universal coverage. By 2019, 23 million Americans will still be uninsured. That is not universal coverage. And out of that 46.3 million Americans who are uninsured today, according to the Census Bureau, and of course, just because you don't have health insurance, it doesn't mean you don't get health care. But one of the interesting points is 14 million of those 46.3 million people are already eligible for Medicaid and S-CHIP and haven't signed up. We're going to add another 18 million. Well, I believe these people have not signed up for Medicaid because they know how difficult it is to find a doctor, because the reimbursement rates to doctors under Medicaid and Medicare too are too low. So we have really, of that 46.3 million, only about 10 million Americans who are chronically ill without health insurance for 2 years or more. Those are the people that I believe we should be taking care of. But instead, we're throwing out the world's finest healthcare system in favor of a total government takeover of our healthcare. The President said over and over again that the average American family will see their premiums go down by $2,500. But increasingly, we knew that the Congressional Budget Office had said the premium increases are going to go up by $2,100. But in spite of the CBO saying that in a written letter to the President, he still continued to talk about premiums going down $2,500. Just last week, though, he said, Well, if we're going to add 30 million people to the rolls of the insured, costs are probably going to go up. So he really lied to the American people on what this was going to cost. So we won't have universal coverage, and we're not going to have lower costs.